You didn't lose them in the silence. You discovered who they really were and who you were becoming without them. You stopped texting, they stopped texting too, and now there's this heavy, almost unbearable silence, and you're left sitting with your thoughts, wondering if they've even noticed your absence. Are they feeling lighter without you? Do they miss you at all? Or was this distance exactly what they wanted from the start? Most people completely misunderstand what mutual no contact looks like with someone avoidant. It feels like an ending, but it's not. It's actually the start of something deeper, a kind of emotional unraveling that slowly exposes the truth about the relationship, about them, and most importantly, about you. By the time you really sit with this silence, you begin to understand that your avoidant ex isn't just sitting there unaffected. They're going through their own internal process, one that changes over time. Their emotions don't stay the same. They shift, sometimes dramatically, as the days turn into weeks. And if you pay attention, you can start to see the difference between someone who is truly growing and someone who is just repeating the same patterns with someone new. Because in silence, it's not about who gives in first, it's about who actually changes. And there's a big difference between the two. Right now, in this moment, what's happening inside their mind is probably not what you're imagining. While you might be overthinking everything, replaying memories, questioning what went wrong, they are likely feeling something unexpected at first: relief. When both people go quiet, an avoidant person often feels a sense of calm. All the pressure they felt before, the emotional expectations, the need to explain themselves or be present in ways that felt overwhelming, it all suddenly disappears. Their system finally gets a break. People with avoidant patterns rely on what psychologists call deactivating strategies. When things start to feel too close, too intense, or too emotionally demanding, their body reacts as if it's under threat. This isn't something they sit and plan, it's automatic. Their nervous system sends signals telling them to pull away, even if there's no real danger. So when you stop reaching out, it feels like relief to them. The pressure is gone, they can finally relax. But this time something is different. Before, whenever there was distance, they still had a quiet confidence that you would come back. You were the one who kept the connection alive. You reached out, you fixed things, you filled the gaps. That gave them a sense of security without requiring them to step up emotionally. They could stay in control without putting in real effort. They knew deep down that you would always be there. Now, with mutual silence, that safety net disappears. And that's when things begin to shift. The relief doesn't stay comfortable for long. As time passes, it slowly turns into something else. First curiosity, then confusion, and eventually a subtle but growing fear. They start wondering why you haven't reached out, why you're not chasing anymore. The silence that once felt peaceful starts to feel unsettling. Questions begin to surface that they've never had to face before. Why haven't they contacted me? Did they really move on? Why aren't they trying to fix this? What if this time I've actually lost them? This is usually when the small tests begin to show up. They might watch your stories more closely. Maybe they like something old you posted, or they send a casual message that seems harmless on the surface. Something like, "Hey, how have you been?" Or, "This reminded me of you." But these actions aren't always what they seem. They're not necessarily deep attempts to reconnect. More often, they're ways of checking if you're still there, if you're still emotionally available, if the door is still slightly open. They're trying to see if they still have access to you without having to be vulnerable. And this part matters, because these small gestures aren't really about missing you in a deep, meaningful way. They're about restoring a sense of control. They want to know if their safety net still exists, if they can return to what felt familiar without having to truly change. Without your effort, they're forced to sit with something that feels very uncomfortable for them. The fear of being forgotten, the fear of not mattering, the fear that maybe they weren't as important to you as they believed. While all of this is happening on their side, something very different is unfolding on yours. At first, the silence feels painful. You feel the loss deeply. Your mind keeps going back to every detail, every moment, every conversation. You question yourself. You wonder if you should reach out. There's a strong pull inside you that wants to fix things, to reconnect, to bring everything back to how it was. But slowly something begins to change. Without the constant effort of maintaining the relationship, without trying to read their moods or make sense of their distance, you start to get your energy back. You begin to feel lighter in ways you didn't expect. You breathe a little easier. The silence that once felt like rejection starts to feel like space. Then it begins to feel like peace. You start seeing things more clearly. How much you were giving, how often you were trying, how much of yourself you were pouring into something that wasn't giving the same energy back. You notice how much you were managing their emotions while ignoring your own needs. And little by little, the silence stops feeling like something you're forced to endure. It becomes something you're choosing. It starts to feel like closure. This is where real detachment begins. Not the kind where you pretend to be okay while secretly hoping they come back, but the kind where you genuinely begin to let go, where you stop needing them to pick you because you've already made that choice for yourself. And that shift is powerful, because while you're healing, growing, and reconnecting with who you are outside of that relationship, they are being left alone with the consequences of their patterns. For possibly the first time, they are feeling what happens when their usual defenses don't bring you back. The quiet eventually turns into something heavier. Loneliness starts to creep in. Regret shows up in small, unexpected moments. Memories come back more vividly than before. They may think about you more than they expected to. They might even miss the connection deeply, but at the same time, they stay guarded. Reaching out would mean admitting they need you, and for someone with avoidant patterns, that feels like losing control of who they are. So instead of being direct, they sit with it. They feel it, but they don't always act on it. At some point, many avoidant people do circle back. It's rarely dramatic. It's usually quiet and careful. A simple message, a casual comment, something that feels small on the surface but carries intention underneath. They don't come back with deep apologies or emotional openness. They come back testing the space, trying to see if the connection is still available to them. They're not just reaching out to reconnect. They're checking if you're still the same version of yourself. The one who used to chase, the one who accepted little effort, the one who stayed even when things felt inconsistent. But this time something is different. You're not seeing their behavior through the same lens anymore. The distance doesn't feel confusing or magnetic like it once did. It feels familiar, predictable. You can recognize it for what it really is, a way of protecting themselves, a fear of getting too close, hidden behind independence. And now you're standing at a crossroads. Not choosing based on what you hope they could become, not holding on to potential or promises, but looking at who they are right now based on what they actually do. When someone avoidant has truly started working on themselves and they reach out after silence, it looks different. There's some level of ownership. They don't ignore the distance, they acknowledge it. They share what they've been thinking about. They may still feel unsure or even scared, but they show a willingness to move toward you instead of away. But when the message is shallow, when it leads nowhere, when it avoids anything real or meaningful that tells you everything you need to know, it's them saying without words that they can miss you, think about you, even feel nostalgic about what you had, but they're not ready to face the hard parts. They're not ready to show up fully. And no amount of waiting or silence is going to change that. Because this isn't about strategy, it's not about timing, it comes down to capacity, to whether they have the emotional ability and the willingness to build something real. Your strength shows up when your silence is no longer a tactic, when you're not staying quiet just to make them come back, but because you've healed enough to not need their validation anymore. Your silence becomes something honest, a reflection of your independence, and that hits deeper than chasing ever could. For some avoidant people, this becomes a turning point. They start to realize what they lost. They begin to look at their own patterns. They slowly open themselves to the idea that closeness doesn't mean losing themselves. For others, they run from it. They distract themselves, maybe with a new relationship, maybe with work, new habits, or a completely different environment. Anything to avoid sitting with what the silence is trying to show them. And that part isn't on you. It's not something you could fix or prevent. It's their path, their responsibility, their choice. Either way, the silence acts like a mirror. It shows you who you're becoming without them, and it shows them who they are when no one is holding the emotional weight for them. So here you are in the quiet. And the real question isn't whether they'll come back or reach out. The real question is who you're becoming in this space. Are you using this time to rebuild yourself, to set boundaries that you'll actually honor, to reconnect with your sense of worth that may have been slowly worn down in the relationship? Or are you just waiting, holding on, hoping they return so you can finally feel okay again? Because in the end, your future won't be decided by who sends the next message. It will be shaped by who grows, by who changes, by who is willing to do the inner work. For you, this silence can become something powerful, a space where you reconnect with yourself, where you remember who you were before all of this, and where you begin to step into who you're becoming now. For them, it becomes a moment of truth, a chance to either keep repeating old patterns or finally face what they've been avoiding. Silence doesn't break real love. It reveals it. If a connection can't exist without one person constantly trying, fixing, and holding everything together, then what you're losing isn't love. It's the weight of carrying something that was never balanced. So what happens next when both of you stay silent? You begin to rediscover yourself. You start to see what life feels like when your energy isn't tied up in someone else's emotional distance. You learn what it means to choose yourself fully and honestly. And that shift changes everything. Not just for this relationship, but for every connection you'll have moving forward. Because you start to understand something that changes the way you love forever. You can't love someone into healing. You can't give up parts of yourself to make someone ready. You can't chase someone into choosing you. Real love doesn't ask you to shrink. It doesn't leave you anxious or unsure. It doesn't feed you just enough to keep you there. Real love shows up. It's consistent. It moves toward you even when it's uncomfortable. And if this silence is teaching you to stop accepting anything less than that, then it's not something you lost. It's something that's guiding you forward. If this spoke to you in a real way, make sure to like and subscribe to Avoidant Patterns. It helps this message reach others who need to hear it. And remember this, the silence isn't empty. It's where your transformation begins. What makes this whole experience so intense is that silence removes all distractions. When there are no messages, no explanations, no small moments of connection, you're left with nothing but reality. And reality has a way of showing you things you may have been avoiding while you were still emotionally involved. One of the hardest truths people face in this phase is realizing how much of the relationship they were holding together on their own. When communication stops, you can clearly see who was initiating, who was repairing, who was trying to keep things alive. And for many people dealing with an avoidant partner, that awareness hits deeply. It's not just about missing them anymore. It's about recognizing the imbalance that existed the entire time. At the same time, your nervous system starts going through its own reset. In the beginning, it feels chaotic. You might feel restless, anxious, even panicked at times. That urge to check your phone, to break the silence, to get some kind of response, it can feel overwhelming. That's because your body got used to the inconsistency. It got used to chasing moments of connection and trying to make sense of emotional distance. But when the silence continues, something begins to settle. Your system slowly starts realizing that it doesn't need to stay in that constant state of alert. You're no longer reacting to their unpredictability. You're no longer trying to decode mixed signals. And as that happens, a deeper kind of calm starts to take its place. This is where clarity really begins to grow. You start to remember things you may have ignored before. Moments where you felt unheard, times when your needs were minimized, situations where you had to shrink yourself just to keep the peace. And instead of brushing those things aside, you begin to actually feel them. That feeling is important. It's not there to punish you. It's there to reconnect you with your own truth. Meanwhile, on their side, the absence of your presence creates a different kind of tension. Avoidant individuals are used to managing closeness by creating distance. But when distance is no longer something they control, it affects them in ways they don't always understand. The silence you're holding isn't something they can predict or manage, and that lack of control is uncomfortable for them. Some of them respond by trying to re-establish a sense of familiarity without fully engaging. That's where you might see those subtle signs again. A reaction here, a message there, something that keeps them connected just enough without requiring emotional risk. It's their way of testing if they can return to the dynamic without changing it. Others might withdraw even further. They convince themselves they don't need the connection. They distract themselves with new people, new routines, or anything that keeps them from sitting with what they're feeling. On the outside, it might look like they've moved on quickly, but internally, they're often just avoiding the discomfort that comes with reflection. And this is where it becomes important not to compare your process with theirs. Your healing doesn't need to match their timeline. In fact, real growth usually happens when you stop watching what they're doing altogether. Because the more you focus on them, the easier it is to lose yourself again. There's also a deeper emotional shift that happens when you stay in the silence long enough. You begin to understand the difference between connection and attachment. You may have felt strongly connected to them, but that doesn't always mean the relationship was healthy. Sometimes what feels like deep connection is actually a pattern of emotional highs and lows that keeps you hooked. When you step back, you start to see that clearly. You begin to notice that real connection doesn't leave you questioning your worth. It doesn't keep you guessing where you stand. It doesn't require you to constantly prove your value just to feel chosen. That awareness changes how you see everything. It changes what you tolerate. It changes what you're willing to accept moving forward. And most importantly, it changes how you see yourself. Instead of feeling like someone who lost something, you start to feel like someone who stepped out of something that wasn't meeting you fully. That shift in perspective is powerful because it moves you out of a place of lack and into a place of self-respect. You also start to rebuild trust with yourself. Every time you resist the urge to break the silence just to ease temporary discomfort, you're showing yourself that you can handle your emotions without abandoning your own needs. That builds a quiet kind of confidence, not loud or forced, but steady and real. And that confidence becomes the foundation for healthier relationships in the future. If they do come back, you're no longer meeting them from the same place. You're not driven by fear of losing them. You're not trying to prove anything. You're observing, you're listening, you're paying attention to whether their actions match what you actually need. And if they don't, you're more willing to walk away without questioning yourself. That's the real transformation. It's not about getting them back. It's about becoming someone who no longer settles for less than what feels right. Silence in this sense becomes more than just a break in communication. It becomes a turning point, a space where illusions fall away and truth becomes impossible to ignore. And while it may not feel like it at first, this phase is often where the strongest version of you begins to take shape. There's also something subtle that starts to happen the longer you stay in this space. Your mind begins to separate what was real from what you hoped was real. At first, those two things feel mixed together. You remember the good moments, the chemistry, the connection, the potential. It all feels meaningful, almost irreplaceable. But with time, you start noticing how much of your attachment was built on anticipation rather than consistency. You weren't just connected to who they were, you were connected to who they could be if things finally aligned, if they opened up, if they showed up the way you needed. And that realization can be painful because it means part of what you were holding on to never fully existed in the way you experienced it. That doesn't make your feelings fake, it just means they were invested in possibility more than reality. And when that clicks, something shifts inside you. You stop chasing potential and start valuing presence. You begin to understand that love isn't about waiting for someone to become ready. It's about meeting someone who already is, or at least someone who is actively trying in a real invisible way. Another thing that becomes clearer is how much emotional energy inconsistency drains from you. When someone is hot and cold, present and distant, it keeps your system in a loop. You're always trying to read between the lines, always adjusting yourself, always wondering where you stand. That kind of dynamic creates intensity, but it's not the same as stability. In silence, that cycle finally breaks. At first it feels empty, then it feels unfamiliar. But eventually it starts to feel steady. And that steadiness allows you to experience a different kind of emotional state, one that isn't driven by uncertainty. It's quieter, but it's also healthier. You begin to realize that peace doesn't come from finally getting the response you were waiting for. It comes from no longer needing it. And that's where your power really starts to return. Because once you stop needing their attention to feel okay, you're no longer easy to pull back into the same pattern. You're no longer responding from urgency or fear. You're choosing from clarity. If they reach out at that point, you feel the difference immediately. You're not reacting with excitement or anxiety. You're observing. You're grounded enough to notice the tone, the effort, the intention behind their words. And this is where many people see something they couldn't see before. They notice that the conversation doesn't go deeper, that it stays on the surface, that it circles without moving forward. And instead of trying to fix it or push it into something meaningful, they simply recognize it for what it is. A limited capacity. That doesn't mean the other person doesn't care at all. It just means their way of caring doesn't match what you actually need. And once you see that clearly, it becomes harder to ignore. There's also a shift in how you experience your own emotions. Earlier, your feelings might have felt overwhelming, like they controlled your actions. But now, you start to hold them differently. You can feel the longing without acting on it. You can miss them without reaching out. You can remember them without losing yourself. That's emotional maturity growing in real time. And it's not about becoming cold or detached from your feelings. It's about becoming stable within them. You also start to notice your standards rising naturally, not in a forced way, not from ego, but from understanding. You know what inconsistency feels like now. You know what it does to you. And because of that, you're less willing to accept it again, even if it shows up in a slightly different form. That awareness protects you. It helps you recognize patterns earlier. It helps you walk away sooner when something doesn't feel right. It helps you stay aligned with yourself instead of getting pulled into confusion. In the end, this silence is not about them, and it's not about who reaches out first. It's about what this space is revealing to you. It strips everything down to the truth. It shows you the imbalance, the patterns, the effort you were giving, and the reality of what you were receiving. What once felt confusing starts to make sense. What once felt powerful over you begins to lose its hold. You stop chasing answers and you start seeing things clearly for what they are. They may come back or they may not, but that's no longer the point, because the real shift is happening within you. You're no longer waiting to be chosen. You're no longer trying to earn love or hold something together on your own. You're choosing yourself, and that changes everything. You begin to understand that real love isn't inconsistent, it isn't distant, and it doesn't leave you questioning your worth. It's steady, mutual, and present. And anything that doesn't meet you at that level is no longer something you feel the need to hold on to. So this silence, as painful as it once felt, becomes something meaningful. It becomes the moment you step out of confusion and into clarity, the moment you stop settling and start respecting your own needs. You don't lose in this situation. You learn, you grow, you become stronger, more aware, and more aligned with what you truly deserve. And that is the real outcome of all of this. The silence didn't break you. It rebuilt you. If this video spoke to you, make sure to like, subscribe to Avoidant Patterns, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss what comes next. And if you truly felt this message, drop the word silence in the comments so I know you're growing through it.